JRPGs are my favorite video game genre. I absolutely love the feeling of going on a grand adventure, visiting strange new worlds and meeting new people. I love gathering a cast of characters of all sorts of backgrounds and seeing them progress from a group of total strangers to a team of good friends. It is through experiencing this in the JRPGs that I love that I realized something in middle school. I wanted to make a JRPG. Middle school me had no clue what he was in for. Game development is hard. Like, really hard. As soon as I opened up Unity to try to make the game of my dreams, I found myself completely lost and confused, having no clue where to even start. How do I make the cube move? Little did I know, I would spend years practicing through failure and mild success of my smaller projects, learning the ins and outs of game development, reading articles and watching videos on game design, writing, world building. I'm in high school now, 11th grade to be precise, and despite all this preparation, which may have been procrastination in hindsight, when I started this project, I didn't know if I was ready or not, but I knew I had to try. So sometime last year, I opened up a new Unity project and was ready to start work on my game. So where did I start? Well, a lot of developers start making a game with a story or concept in mind, something to direct them when in starting phases of development. I was no different. I wanted to make a game about two characters who start off hating each other, but are both on a dangerous journey where they need to learn to rely on each other in order to survive, and eventually become close friends. I was heavily inspired by an anime called Made in Abyss, in which a girl named Riko and her robot friend Reg go into a deep, otherworldly abyss in search of her missing mother. I loved the relationship the two main characters shared, and I wanted to explore a similar type of relationship in video game form. The story concept has changed over time, but that was the concept I started making the game with. After deciding on a vague concept for the story, I started with designing the combat system. And it turned out to be way more of a complicated task than I ever thought it would be. Of course, before I jumped into actually making it, I had to decide on what type of combat system I wanted for the game. There are many different types of combat systems in RPGs, and I had to decide on one that would best work with my skill set and resources. In general, combat in RPGs seems to form on the spectrum between completely real-time and completely turn-based. Elements like menu navigation and being able to pause at any time to do actions push it more towards the turn-based end, while things like enemies being able to act regardless of your action pull it towards the real-time end. I had to decide where I wanted my game to be on this spectrum. It took a lot of weighing pros and cons, but in the end I decided to make the game a mostly real-time affair, with a few turn-based elements thrown in there, such as being able to issue commands to party members. I figured this approach would allow me to create the most depth in my gameplay. So, once I had decided on the type of combat system I wanted, all that was left to do was to make it. So I did. I poured hours into making the combat. I had an internal list of features I knew I wanted. A lock-on system, basic light and heavy attack combos, magic attacks that can be used mid-combo, aerial attacks, a block and parry system, items that can be used without pausing the game, and of course, a dodge rule. As the months passed by, things moved relatively smoothly. The only real problem I faced was that some animations I had bought didn't really work well with the test model I was using for the player. I fixed this by learning 3D modeling and rigging in order to make a character that was compatible with the animations. In the end, after about a week of learning, I ended up making this monstrosity. It was supposed to be like a low poly anime character, like some art I had seen that had pulled off that look really well. But I think it's safe to say I didn't really end up making it look as good as I wanted to. But it worked. The animations were compatible, so that's all that mattered. In just a few months, I managed to get most of the features I wanted. It was perfect. Everything worked out as I had hoped. Except for one tiny problem. This game is awful. Attacks felt as satisfying as breaking a wet cookie. Sometimes hits wouldn't register. Sometimes hits would register more than once in a single swing, sometimes animations wouldn't play, certain actions would just break the game entirely. And every time I added a new feature, about 30 different bugs would pop up out of nowhere, causing me to waste hours and hours of time that I could be spending on other things on fixing them. Overall, the combat only worked about 50% of the time, and even when it didn't exactly feel fun. I tried tweaking the system over and over, convincing myself that with enough tweaking it would eventually feel fun, but after a while, I had to face facts. If I wanted the combat system to function properly, I would have to redo a lot of what I had already done. This was not a fun thing to realize. It took a huge toll on my motivation. I just couldn't bring myself to scrap a lot of what I had already done. It was 10 months of work after all. So, instead of doing that all right away, I focused on other aspects I knew I would need if I was going to make an RPG. I created an inventory system, an equipment system, stats that influence various aspects of the player and the enemies, a dialogue system. I even replaced the freak of nature I made with my 3D modeling skills, and made a new character using Vroid Studio, which allows you to create your own anime-style characters. Working on these really helped boost my motivation for the game, and gave me the confidence in my skills that I needed to redo the combat system. To my surprise, in only 2 days I was able to get the combat working in a non-buggy state. Attacks would hit enemies consistently, the added hit stop and camera shake gave hits a bit of an extra crunch, and I could add new combos and features without breaking anything. I also decided to get rid of aerial attacks, as they just overcomplicated things. While I wouldn't say it's exactly fun yet, it's functional, which is way more than I could say about it before. So, what's next? Well, you may have noticed that some of the footage I used for this video, there's a town-like environment and all new enemies. I'll be covering stuff like that in a future video, along with the new story for the game and the overall structure and core gameplay loop. But for now, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, and if you want to see more of my content in the future, be sure to subscribe, and maybe hit that bell if you want to get notified immediately when I upload. So, thank you so much, and goodbye.